Serious, people of Reddit, what moment made you instantly think this is the moment I die? It was in the mid 1980s, riding a bicycle to work during the morning rush hour. 2 lanes in the same direction, speed limit is 35. A woman pulls ahead of me and turns right. Her bumper hooked my front tire and I flew off the bike into traffic. My life did not flash before my eyes, but I remember thinking, crap, I really don't want to die right now. I heard tires squealing and popped up to get out of the road. The woman stopped about 20 feet down the road, got out of her car and said, "Did I hit you?" I could only numbly shake my head yes. Her response was a sing-song sorry. She got back in her car and drove off. I had landed on my left elbow and left hip. It was about a month before I could walk without pain. Jesus effing Christ, what a horrible person. I can't imagine how she thought that was okay. I mean, it wasn't even like she panicked and froze up or fled. She just didn't care. I'm so angry on your behalf right now. Anyway, I'm really glad you are okay now and not dead. When I crashed my motorcycle on the Long Island Expressway going 65 miles per hour, as I flew over the handlebars I said to myself, well, it's been a good life. Wear a helmet, tough guys. Was home alone and chocked on a bite of sandwich. Couldn't inhale, exhale, or cough for about 30 seconds before it dislodged. Seriously thought I was going to die alone eating a sandwich. I was in Peru on the beach alone and some guys walking towards me with machetes and bandanas. Not off to a great start. After they beat the blood into my pee and robbed me, they ripped my shirt off and the leader rested his machete on my shoulder. Then they just walked away. Life's a little brighter every day now, folks. Came down with Lyme complete with rash and fever. Got antibiotics and 12 hours later came down with a severe migraine and painful, stiff neck, and severe vertigo, and couldn't remember where I was. I don't know how I didn't die, but at the time I thought I was going to and just accepted it. I had Lyme and my legs stopped working. I couldn't stand up. I was so scared because I was like 8. Was in the passenger seat of a GMC Chevy Trailblazer that was traveling at 90 plus mph when someone pulled out in front of us and stopped. Brakes locked up. She snatched the wheel. The moment the tires left the pavement as we started our first flip, I remember thinking, frick, this is it. We ended up on the roof. I had to climb back into the truck to drag the driver out as the ceiling was filling with gas. I somehow walked away with only a few scratches from crawling out of the glass. When I had a stroke Shire, I had just finished a workout and was standing next to the row machine. My legs started to feel weak and I collapsed. My wife ran over. I could barely talk. Whole left side of my face was drooping. I could lift my left arm but not work my hands. Luckily it passed in 10-15 seconds. Went to the hospital, found out I have a PFO, hole in your heart, which is probably how the clot got through. They said I won the lottery since chances are so small for that to happen. My dad had a stroke in Iraq, excessive factor 8, clotting, half his cerebellum removed and a PFO repaired. Still missing a 3x5 piece of his skull, but you wouldn't know he had M by looking at him. Doctor said he's never seen someone recover that well. Used to eat peanut butter and raisins mixed together as a snack. Just spoonfuls of the mixture into my mouth. One day it got stuck down my throat. It somehow blocked me from getting air through my nose or mouth and it literally felt like several needles had embedded themselves into my throat. It wouldn't budge no matter how much I tried to work my throat. Panic set in and my heart felt like it would explode from pounding so hard. When the black spots started dancing over my vision, my exact thought was, this is such a stupid way to die. Somehow, the peanut butter glob slid down my throat far enough to suck in air through my nose, and if you can imagine it, I literally had to work my neck like a chicken to make the rest of the glob move down. I haven't eaten the peanut butter raisin mixture in about 7 years and I never will again. I got blown up. I'm a volunteer firefighter and at a house fire, there was some kind of an explosion, likely a smoke explosion from what we could tell. We had been there quite some time, well past the point where a backdraft would be possible, but suddenly something wasn't sitting right with me about the situation. My partner and I were standing on the front stairs to the house. I looked at her and told her to pack up. She asked why and I said I don't like the look of this crap. I got my mask on and was on air. Turned back around and there was a wall of orange rushing towards me. It was an explosion. It blew me out of the front door where I was standing and down the steps. I stand 6 feet 1 and weighed about 280 pounds at the time. All I remember is I was looking up at the sky after having just been standing on the stairs. I was okay for the first few minutes, but after I walked away and was alone with my thoughts, I started trembling and shaking, realizing that I came moments away from quite possibly being horribly injured or killed. I don't know why my gut instinct told me to put my pack on, but I am so glad it did. The 13th of August, 2004, at approximately 3:15 p.m. I was living in Port Charlotte, FL, less than a mile from the Gulf Coast. Hurricane Charlie had made landfall, and the eye was passing over my house. I was in the bathtub, in a mason block brick house, and I could feel the entire house moving. I could feel the pressure changing. I heard destruction all around as the storm tore through the area, while the radio warned anyone in the area listening to hunker down. I sat there waiting for the house to collapse on me. My only hope was that they found my body quickly so my mother wouldn't have to worry long if I had survived or not, because I knew any moment would be my last. Then, the eye passed directly over. It was calm, peaceful, still. The destruction outside my home is difficult to describe, even all these years later. This is why I live where the air hurts my face. Driving on my old Camaro on the interstate on the left lane, I go over this long tall bridge. Traffic is backed up and the line of cars ends up at the bottom of the bridge. I'm the last car of the traffic jam. I look in the rearview mirror and 18-wheeler is coming up behind me pretty fast. Brakes locked. From where I am I can see the smoke and the jitter of the cab as he's sliding. Concrete divider on the left, cars on the right. No way out. As I'm getting ready to brace for impact, traffic starts to move. The truck didn't need to stop but it got really close to my rear bumper. Scary crap. Had a plane get delayed for over an hour for a mechanical issue. When we were flying we hit the worst turbulence I have ever felt. And I fly more than the average bear. The plane was literally dropping and people were coming out of their chairs. I thought we were going down. I was never scared of flying before and now I always get nervous. There are air pockets where that will happen because the air is less dense than what you were just flying through, and the entire plane will just drop, just like you said. It's scary as heck, and oddly enough it can happen in the ocean on rare occasions. Snowboarding when I was 18. Took a nasty fall. My elbow hit my gut, knocked the wind out of me. Kept snowboarding for an hour as my gut still hurt. Brother drove me to the emergency room. Got me on the operating table and had to take a crap. Hot nurse gets my car hits off, puts a bedpan under me. 2 minutes later I go blind and tell the nurse. She says your spleen is lacerated. You're in shock and your body is shutting down. Then yells for a dose of epinephrine and says we're losing him. That's cool came out of my mouth. This is when I knew this might be my finale. Handled it like a champ. Doctor later told me had I showed up 10-15 minutes later they woulda lost me. Yikes. That hot nurse who put a bedpan under me, couple days later was on morphine and I hit on her. Told her that the fiancé didn't love her as much as I would. Quick, we're losing him. That's cool, take your time. I got biked by a water moccasin while picking up a tire on the side of highway very far from a hospital with only a slow ATV as transportation. When I was traveling north on 75 in Ohio in the middle of a snowstorm surrounded by semi-trucks and everything electrical in my car died at once. I lost power steering, headlights, acceleration, everything. Was entering the highway, doing about 55. I went to switch lanes to pass a semi and hit black ice. When I saw the median out of the windshield I knew I was fricked. I heard, so this is how it ends in my head. Dropped my hands into my lap and tried to relax my body just in case I'll live through whatever was about to happen. But the feeling of dread and doom in my gut said this was game over. The SUV flipped 1-stroke 2 times. The roof was less than half an inch from crushing my skull when it finally stopped rocking. I literally walked away from that accident, though I've had physical issues with my back, neck, and head ever since. Sadly my dog was with me for that ride. He was thrown from the vehicle and severely cut up. A police officer took him to an emergency vet while I was taken to the emergency room. They had to put Bailey down. He was one of the bestest good boy. R.I.P. Pooch. This is why I have a fear of driving with my pets in the car. Whitewater rafting in Colorado. Decided midway through to use the inflatable kayak the guide had. Was fine until literally the last set of rapids that were probably a class 4 and I'm used to about a 3. Navigate them just fine until the last stretch that basically spins my nose and tosses me in the river. I'm instantly shocked to the bottom about 10 to 15 feet down. It was much deeper than I expected. The second I realized I was at the bottom of the river I had one single thought cross my mind. If you panic you die. I've been tossed and swam in rapid before but this was something else. Had to fight to get to the surface while making sure I didn't get trapped or pinned by any rocks or debris underwater. Finally get to the surface and I'm under the kayak so can't break the surface. Finally get the kayak out for over me and break the surface about a minute after I've been under. I managed to collect all my gear in the kayak, link up with my party behind me, and get ashore, all without losing the sunglasses off my head the whole time. Once on the shore the guide asks me again if I'm okay. I say I'm fine but it was intense. He nods and asks if I think I could have done it without the life vest. I tell him maybe but it would have been much harder. He then quietly tells me a kid died in that exact spot 1 week ago that day. I wasn't surprised but was spocky. The first time I hydroplaned. I was 16. Just got my license. First time driving by myself in the rain. I was speeding because I was a moron. I hit a bit of water while on a curve. I saw the railing coming up and the brakes weren't working. Luckily I didn't overcorrect. So when I finally got past the puddle I avoided impact. But that memory of being sure I was going to die has kept me driving safely since. There's a gun show that happens frequently near the shooting range where I work. Predictably, lots of people buy their guns and want to immediately test them out. This obviously creates a situation with a high density of firearms and shooters with a low density of training and experience. So one gun show Sunday I was working my turn as the safety officer inside the range. I had identified a pair of guys who were very nice and enthusiastic, but obviously inexperienced. They got a lot of my attention. They were busy loading up a magazine when I got a question from another shooter, so I felt okay diverting my focus for a second. I answered the question and meanwhile heard my two newbies load up their gun and fired 2 shots, then stop. The shooter told his buddy, "Man, see, I think these sights aren't working right. I can't hit crap." I knew something was wrong. Sure enough, the shooter was holding his loaded gun sideways, finger on the trigger, pointed right at my guts as he inspected the sights. I gently body checked him as I grabbed the gun and pointed it downrange. We then had a very serious conversation about firearm safety and the fact that he needed to take a class or 2. He was very apologetic and ashamed. I don't think I've told my wife this story. This sort of thing is why I think gun safety courses should be mandatory for everyone before they get access to firearms, especially loaded ones. I was eating gobstoppers while I was bopping around my room once when I was home alone, and accidentally inhaled it a bit and started choking. The most memorable part about it aside from the terror was the main thought I had. What a freaking lame way to die. Ed and Eddie wouldn't have had it any other way. Got on a ride with my sister at the Milwaukee Fair once. My buckle for some reason didn't work. It was one of those rocking pirate ship things, but it went all the way around. Every time the thing would go upside down I'd fall like 2 feet out of the seat. Everyone else was just chilling as I was hanging on for dear life to the bars above me. My sister and everyone else seemed fine, so I just stayed still and tried to not to scare everyone. I was convinced I was gonna be the next kid on the news for dying at a carnival. TLDR. Thought I was falling out of a fair ride. Had a similar experience at the local county fair. Went on a roller coaster and I crap you not, halfway through the ride, my seatbelt completely detaches. Held on with my hands and legs for the remainder of the ride. Very scary 15-30 seconds. Frick fair rides. When I was 12 years old, I was being prepped for surgery and given a topical numbing medication called Emlicrine. About 5 minutes after application, I went into anaphylactic shock. I remember everything around me turning a purple-blue hue and falling backwards thinking that I was a goner. I regained consciousness a few hours later hooked up to multiple wires with a nurse and my surgeon standing over me. I would like to know more. When I found out that my chronic lymphocytic leukemia, CLL, has been through a Richter's transformation to have large cell lymphoma. This only happened to 7% of CLL patients, and for my age to get CLL, I think I'm the youngest CLL patient that time in the world. For the odds to be so against me, I really think this is it. I'm gonna die. A friend who went through all came and talked sense to me. I went in fighting and came out alive. This will get buried, but I'll have a go. If my formatting is wrong, I blame my phone. I was in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan at a restaurant with some friends. At this particular restaurant there were grills in the tables and you ordered meat and grilled it yourself. My friend, and now boyfriend, decided to order the most outlandish thing on the menu, which was pig anus. That's right, it was the literal butthole of a pig, stretched out like a rubber band. There were testicles and penis, but no, the anus. Being good sports, myself and the other friend thought, frick it, might as well since we are here, it will make for a good story later. So these butthole elastic band rings were chewy as heck, and we found out that you just had to swallow the thing whole because no amount of chewing would break it up into pieces. Side note, apparently we couldn't even grill them properly. The waitress had to come over and show us how to cook a pig's butthole properly. So they didn't taste anything else other than the really fatty part of bacon, and the texture was something to be desired, but hey, new experience. Unfortunately, I have one of those permanent braces wires to the back of my bottom teeth to keep them in line. There was an edge exposed, and one end of the anus got stuck while I tried to swallow, which led to roughly 75% of it blocking my throat. To put into perspective, these anus were stretched the frick out. Think of a really overused elastic band that is on its last legs, then double that. So this entire thing was stopping me from breathing. I started seeing stars, panicked while choking and gagging, and struggled to free the anus from my wire, all the while my life flashed before my eyes, thinking this is it. This is how I die. Choking to death on a fricking pig's butthole. I eventually got it free, eyes watering and gasping for air with my friends concerned. I immediately drank copious amounts of beer to wash the shame away and show the rest of the restaurant that was staring at me during the whole ordeal I was okay. TLDR. Almost died literally choking on a stretched out butthole. Literally a new meaning of eating butt. Glad you survived though, holy crap. It was about 6 AM on a Sunday, in the middle of rural Illinois, when Carl almost shot me. We were dropping pheasant with the hunt club. Maybe 6 guys in total on 50-acre cornfield in the dead of winter. There was nothing to block line of sight. One of the dogs flushed a pheasant about 15 feet to my left, angling towards me, and it decided to fly at about head height, way too low to take a shot at. So, being the good little hunter I am, I kept my shotgun pointed at the ground and turned to follow the bird's flight. About 3 seconds after the bird passed me, I heard the distinctive rustle of someone shouldering a gun. In that moment, I knew what a deer felt like when it stares into the headlights. I was absolutely certain that one of my buddies was about to blow my head off, and I could not move. Time slowed down, and I saw the shot fly past my face, not 3 feet in front of me. Everyone froze, and I think it took me about 5 seconds to yell, Jesus freaking Christ. I spun to see who had almost shot me, and everyone was staring at Carl. He was frozen in place, about 10 yards behind me and to me left, right where the shot would have come from. For a second, I wanted to shoot him, I really did. I was filled with some kind of primal rage that demanded I do something about what just happened. Instead, I just pointed at my bright orange vest and screamed, "You don't shoot at orange crap, Carl. How freaking hard is that?" He had a gratifying mixture of horror and mortification etched onto his face. I didn't really stay to revel in it though. I just kind of stormed off, clearing my gun as I went. I just told the guys that I was leaving and pulled out of there as calmly as I could. Cole stopped coming to drops after that, which is fine by me. That kills people. Carl. Spun out across 3 lanes on the freeway because my tire blew. As my car was spinning, time slowed down. I was looking into the faces of all the other people in the cars coming toward me, watching their expressions turn to horror. I remember thinking, well, guess this is how it happens. This is the moment. I was very calm and peaceful, though I regretted that I was going to hurt others on my way out. Thankfully everyone was paying attention and swerved to miss me. I did a complete 360 and landed on the shoulder unharmed. Once I realized that everything was okay, that's when the calm melted away and the panic set in and I shook like a leaf for a half an hour. What a kind soul you must be. Your life is in jeopardy and your last thought is about the safety of others. Plus 10 points to my faith in humanity. I pee off my boyfriend at the time, now ex, by choosing to do something with my mom over him. He beat me senseless all over his bathroom floor, even dislocated my thumb. I remember thinking, yep, this is the one way he kills me. That's E. I hope he rots in heck, and I'm so glad he's your ex. Wishing you a happy life. I was hiking in the backcountry of New Mexico and I left the group to take a pee. Halfway through my business I noticed a mountain lion was stalking me. We were also lost on a foggy morning on top of a mesa that resembled a skull. Gasp, not you. My friends and I were trying to cross some rapids. They made it across. I got pulled under, was pushed up against some rocks and went back under. I had enough time to look around and go, man, it's gonna suck for my friends if I die right now. And then I washed up on a sandbar about 5 seconds later. My friends all ran up panicked except for one who looked at me and said, don't worry, I got your shoes. The moment an auger had my foot and was pulling me in, half of me would have stayed up in the bin and half of me would have come out the end of the auger and into another bin. Kid below heard me screaming and finally hit the emergency stop. This happened 12 years ago. I was 15 years old, had just finished smoking a ton of weed with some friends under the highway and was walking home down the train tracks with my iPod blasting in my ears. Happened to look behind me and there was a train about 2 feet behind me. Literally dived into the bushes like a freaking dolphin and broke my arm. Texted my friends after. They were like, WTF, we were wondering why that train wouldn't stop honking. Moral of the story, don't be freaking stupid. I was a train conductor for 2 years. Almost hit 2 people equals. Was selling plasma at the shady plasma place downtown. Halfway through, everything is normal, but then I start to feel kind of weird. My hearing started to fade, then darkness crept in on the edges of my vision until it was totally black. I asked for help and my own voice sounded very far away. In the end, I found out I was slowly passing out due to dehydration, but at the time it felt like my soul was slipping away. Sounds like vasovagal response. Blood pressure drops, shortness of breath, skin gets clammy and you can black out. It is a common response to plasma donation, regardless of shadiness of the donation facility. When I was a teenager, I dated a real winner. He was really abusive. Once, he was choking me and I felt myself slipping out of consciousness. I was certain I was going to die. The next thing I remember is waking up on the kitchen floor. I went tubing on my birthday, and the boat that was pulling me created a huge wave. I saw it coming. Image falling off a cliff but made of water. So that happened and my tube flipped over and I was thrown underwater. I was pretty disoriented and I couldn't tell which direction was up, but luckily I was wearing a flotation divide. Forgot what it's called, but they're the orange vests. And it pulled me up with such force until my head was above the water. Floats save lives, y'all. Lots of people don't like to wear them, but you never know when it could help you. Floats save lives, y'all. Lots of people don't like to wear them, but you never know when it could help you. So important. I won't have an accident is not a proper plan no matter what the situation. No one plans to have accidents. That's why they call them accidents. I was trying to leave my abusive husband. We had a fight and I decided to leave. I had one boot on one foot and was running towards the door. He grabbed me by the neck and slammed my head into the wall. I thought, this is how I will die. I thought that, after years of abuse, we had crossed the point of no return. I couldn't breathe. As I hovered in the air, all I could think about was my infant daughter in the other room. He dropped me. In a split-second decision I thought, I've got to fake him out. He dropped me. I took off my boots and put it by the door, in an attempt to make him think that I wasn't going to run. He said, "You made me do this." When he turned his back to me, I bolted out the door. I ran to my car. It was like every scary movie I had ever seen. I was fumbling around, trying to get my keys in the ignition. I looked up and saw him coming out the door towards me. Somehow, I started the car and got out of the driveway. I drove to my sister's house and called the police. They came and retrieved my daughter. The funny thing about abusers, they bark that they are above the law. But when the cops were there, he sang a different tune. That was the first step of many that got me out of that situation. But I will never forget that feeling. I hope life is being much kinder to you now. I was standing around outside my school after hours and saw a cop car go by with its lights and sirens on. I should clarify, this was in 1983 and my school was on a US Air Force base in England. The base was a command and control base with a nuclear hardened bunker, and because of the surrounding housing developments the MPs never used the sirens on their cars. Oh, and they were all racing in the direction of the bunker. The flight time of an SS-20 IRBM from Eastern Europe to where I was standing was somewhere around 5-10 minutes. So I sat back against the wall of the building I was at and looked up at the sky waiting for the flash. Frick it, at least it would be over quick, unless it was a dud. Turned out it was just a large fire in a building on base. Still crap my pants. I grew up in the DC area. During that time, whenever they would interrupt programming you'd get a little knot in your stomach. It was always just a plane crash, or a tornado, or somebody getting shot. Sucks for those people but at least it wasn't Armageddon. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.